I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
Oh, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. Get more with Geico.
Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowe's.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Install by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Welcome to the Shabby Detective, yet another Columbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me, of course, is my partner in crime, Mr. Cristachio.
I'm here. And you know what? They're replacing people. They're replacing them. That's all I can think of when I think of Kevin McCarthy. That's all I can think. That in UHF, but I felt like that's probably a deeper cut.
I thought you were like carrying a tiki torch. You will not replace us.
Oh, wow. Oh, Kevin. Oh, wow. Also, Kevin McCarthy. Jesus, that's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, that's more Joseph McCarthy, yeah.
That's fair.
On this episode, we are talking about the 5th episode of the 2nd season, Requiem for a Falling Star, directed by Richard Quine, written by Jackson Gillis, who we've talked about a few times on this show before. This episode was the first episode of 1973, coming in on January 21st. This episode stars Ian Baxter as Nora Chandler. She is our murderess. And wow, Chris, this is the first time we've had somebody kill someone else by mistake, as far as I know.
Yeah, killed somebody by mistake, but there may be more going on than just one murder. Bum, bum. God. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to say what the twist of this episode is yet, but it did get me. It's not that I didn't see it coming, because they keep mentioning it over and over again, but this is, I think, one of the more complicated episodes that we've watched, but I think it's also one of the better ones. It's really good. I think it works really well. It manages to stick the landing, as it were.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because when I was thinking about this episode, coming at this from a seasoned Columbo fan, talking to the newer Columbo fan, the seasoned Columbo fan in me is going, that's the one with the fountain in the back. I don't remember anything else, and then I was watching it yesterday again, and just, oh, this is actually really good. There's a lot of twists and turns here. I didn't expect that. Oh, wow, this is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good, and it also features Columbo a lot, like comparatively to maybe not Dagger of the Mind, but definitely the most crucial game. I feel like we were talking about how little Columbo there was in that one, but man, he is front and center, and he is making his presence known, especially to Ann Baxter. Constantly, to the point where I like how he introduces himself. I've been in love with you all my life. That's not, I don't, again, like with Columbo, you never know what's for real and what isn't, but that is just part of the disarmingness of Columbo. I don't believe that for a second.
then there's the whole thing of, one, does he walk in and know that she did it? You never know with Columbo. Like, when is the moment that he knows? Because he is fawning, like you said, he is just completely fawning over this woman, just really laying it on super thick, calling up his wife. Oh, his wife isn't home. Here, let me put you on the phone with my brother-in-law, to the point where I'm like, is there even anybody on the phone? Is he just, because the way that he hands the phone over and then takes it away, I'm like, did she hear George on that phone? Or is this just him calling up nobody and pretending and then taking that phone away real quick? Could you guess who that was? Oh, that was Nora Chandler. What do you mean, who is she?
Honestly, I was curious because we have had conversations before on the show about when does Columbo know? And I get the sense in this episode that he's not joking at the end, that he actually doesn't have anything concrete on her. There is a little bit of Deus Ex movie in this episode where he's sitting and watching a movie where it's her disguising herself as a man. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, God, please don't make it that he's coming to this realization while watching this. No, they do that. And it's, I don't know, like, there's parts of this episode that I feel like are a little kind of contrived. That is one of them. But it ultimately, I think, serves the final climax being this may be the first time where Columbo doesn't have them. Again, I want to believe him, but it seems like this may be the first time he doesn't really have her dead to rights. He essentially has to get her in the act to know that he's right. Ultimately, he is right, but I like that this might be the first time where maybe Columbo doesn't know. But again, because every other episode we've had this question of, so he knows the moment he walks in, right? Like, we've always said that, or like he knows within a couple minutes. Like, in this one, I hope it's not the case, but I do wonder, because like we've said, the moment he walks in, he's already fawning over her. Maybe that is for real. Maybe it is, again, but it's so hard to tell with Columbo. That's the problem. Or it's a good thing and a bad thing, really.
If he was telegraphing that he knows, we would just be like, okay, the game's over. Because that's what this always is, this whole game of cat and mouse with what Columbo's doing with these usually rich bastards. And I would say Nora Chandler is up there. It's pretty smart to be doing a Hollywood story. It's definitely very cheap. They're right there on the Universal lot, so they're not having to go very far with this.
Right. I like that Ann Baxter lives on the lot. I also like that she buried her husband on the lot, like back there, as if she's a big dummy in a lot of ways, but that's like the big dummy moment, was her burying John Colicos in the studio. What were you thinking, lady? Like, this fountain on top will be enough until, I guess maybe she's just banking on she'll be dead by the time they figure out that he's there. Like, stall long enough. But she's pretty nasty, but she's not as nasty as other people. It feels more like self-preservation.
She is so overly nice so much of the time, and just really playing up that she is an actress. I especially like when she is messing with her assistant, Jean Davis here, played by Pippa Scott, and the way that she's, oh, be a dear. Oh, that's right. You have plans tonight with your friend. Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry, but I really need this. And then she starts to get upset and all that. And I'm like, wow, she is just playing this to the hilt. And then the way that she and Mel Ferrer go back and forth. Mel Ferrer in this episode plays Jerry Parks. He's not necessarily a Kitty Carlisle, but similar as far as he's one of these guys who just digs up dirt about the celebrities.
He's a Perez Hilton, a more contemporary analog. This was a thing, though. Like, these people ingratiated themselves real hard to people in the 70s. This dude's a real profession for somebody at the time.
He's like your Rona Barrett, Hedda Hopper, people that trade in secrets. And he's got this whole thing, because Ann Baxter is Nora Chandler. She's got two things going on. She's got one, which is the murder of her husband, or the disappearance of her husband all of these years ago. And then in a more contemporary sense, Mel Ferrer, or Jerry Parks is finding out about what she did, some really crafty bookkeeping, that a movie that she was on ended up losing all this money for the studio. She ended up netting $2 million, which I know in these days sounds like nothing, but this is 1973 that we're talking about here. So a little bit more than 2 million in today's terms, but still, so she has this going on, and she is afraid that her assistant is somehow going to reveal more about her, maybe even talk about the murder. I don't exactly know how that's going to work, but basically there's a fake out in this episode, and the fake out is, and for God's sakes, I hope you've watched this before you listen to us talk about it, because the fake out is that the assistant dies, and you keep thinking, and this episode sets up that she meant to kill Jerry Parks, but mistakenly killed Gene Davis.
But it turns out she meant to kill Gene Davis because Gene Davis knew that Ann Baxter murdered her husband. We don't know that until essentially the end of the episode when she says as much to Columbo, but it's never revealed how. But that is the unknown reason, at least unknown to the audience, as to why Gene Davis, Pippa Scott's character, gets murdered, is because she found out somehow. And again, like, the reasoning how she found out is unimportant. It does feel a little like Dirty Pool because they are withholding a piece of information from us as the audience, but they do allude to something going on with John Kaligos' Al Cumberland, because they bring it up a bunch of times. Oh, they saw him get on his boat, and then he went off, and he never came back. And like, but again, like, it's not made very clear that ties into the main narrative. It's more or less just she's known for marrying the head of the studio, like a Louis Mayer type, I guess. And like now she's not in charge of the studio anymore, and she wasn't given the studio, someone else was, but they're trying to get her out of the studio land where she again happened to bury her husband. Which, again, just seems like the worst idea. She's not too smart.
Yeah, that conceit, that whole contrivance of her burying the husband. And I understand, you bury a body, you don't want to go unbury it and move the body. You want the wing or the leg?
Look at the wing. Yeah, some livers and guts. We got to go dig him up. What do you mean we have to go dig him up?
Come over to my mother's house. She'll make some sausage and peppers.
That's the last thing you want to have to do, is move a half-decomposed corpse anywhere.
The other thing I kept thinking about was the recent episode of Night Gallery we watched. I kept waiting for Cameron Mitchell to show up and be like, we sold this property and this, but you're the one property that will not sell. And then there's, that poor little old lady, Elsa Lancaster, with her fingers that get chopped off. Everything I plant grows.
Got green fingers. It does have that, like, the secret of the land comes back to haunt you vibe. And I do appreciate the double twist here, but yeah, man, Columbo, the scene at the end where he's like, I just didn't want this to be the case, and I did everything I could. I'm not sure of any of this. There was watching this movie. It's, oh man, like, he really is fucked this time, unless she is doing exactly what she does. She has to do exactly what she goes and does. Otherwise, he doesn't catch her.
He has to plant phony evidence, which we've seen him do many times before now. Plant phony evidence, which freaks her out. And it's so funny because just the other day, I was doing an episode on Murder by Decree, the Bob Clark film, and there's all this stuff in there about the Masonic temple, the Freemasons. So when Columbo looks at that picture of the husband and he sees the Shriner ring and he just, oh, he was a 32nd and a half, blah, 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 and it's from this sect and blah, blah. And I'm like, that's exactly what that guy was talking to me about, all the different sects of Freemasons and the Shriners and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, okay, that sounds actually 100% legitimate. Whoever did their research on this, if that's Jackson Gillis, if that's Peter Falk, that's perfect stuff. They nailed that.
So here's what I don't get. How does Columbo convince Ann Baxter that they found her husband's body with that ring? That's what she's going to do, is like see to make sure it's still there, yeah? But it's weird to me that there would have been a lot of things that would have had to have happened for that to happen. So she should have just been like, never mind you, Columbo, but she does exactly what he wants her to do.
He, quote unquote, finds the ring on Jerry Parks after she hits Jerry Parks with her car, and we don't really see him die. He was, quote unquote, going to blackmail her about this, or knew for sure about this, so she was too late with Gene Davis. Gene Davis let the secret out in her mind, and she let Jerry Parks know, and that's why he's got this Masonic ring or Shriner ring. But what I love about this episode, rewatching it, was when Gene Davis dies, when they come into the restaurant to say, hey, the audience, we're all expecting Jerry Parks is dead. Jerry Parks comes walking into the restaurant, or I think it might be vice versa, and then she faints dead away. And I was like, oh, okay, oh, that was really good. And then the interaction she has with Jerry Parks after that is one of this like knowing, like wink kind of thing, even though she knows more than him. She knows that she killed Gene on purpose, but all of a sudden Jerry Parks is like, oh, you killed her by accident, and now, you know, my price has just gone up kind of thing. You are really fucking with this blackmailer. So then when it gets revealed, no, she killed Gene on purpose, I'm like, whoa, okay. Like, I'm genuinely surprised watching this episode.
It has a lot of twists and narrative turns that it takes, but I think it earns all of them. Like you mentioned, Ann Baxter is a good actress for this role, because we don't learn what John Colicos was doing with Ann Baxter's character, and they don't really hint at anything. They don't say anything about their marriage particularly being on the rocks or bad or anything. They don't say that he beats her. None of that. So he's, again, just like this looming figure in the background. So we don't get the sense of their relationship, but we get the sense that, again, she just seems like she's trying to hold on to her position in Hollywood. But we've seen less sympathetic female characters in this show, and I like that we get to see a rather sympathetic one here. Because she doesn't even try to deny it. When Columbo finally goes, "Blah," and has it all out, she just goes, yeah, you're right. And she didn't have to admit it. Again, in the hopes of self-preservation, you would think she wouldn't. Because, again, like, they would have to do a bunch of things to get to the point where she's pinned against the wall with the evidence, but I do appreciate that it's, again, she's not as conniving as we've seen. And the show is not just constantly giving us these like very one-tone villains or, again, main characters of the show. Because in the show, Columbo really is the villain to all these people. That's the truth here. Columbo is the villain of the show.
And they did a really good job of bringing him on in a pretty timely manner. So it wasn't like, where's Columbo at? I mean, the murder takes place pretty quickly at the beginning. They really set us up. They give us a lot of information, and they show us the murder in a very timely manner. This is not like, checking my watch, is it a half an hour yet? When's Columbo showing up?
We get to see a bunch of, again, pseudo fake outs within the episode, where we have Ann Baxter shooting the door at the beginning, where it's, okay, you think that that is the murder immediately, and she's killing somebody. Nope. She's a movie star. And then later in the episode, it's a rear projector shot where she's in a car, and you think it's her being chased by the cops, but it's her character in whatever movie she's shooting being chased by the cops. And it's a nice, again, like they're playing with the conventions of the setting of the narrative as well, because again, this is taking place in Hollywood, in the world of the movies, which was missing in Greenhouse Jungle. It's like, okay, you've got Greenhouse in the title, but it doesn't have anything to do with that world. So many of these episode titles tie indirectly to the world that it's being set in, like the world of sports or the world of the military or the world of music, like the first episode of the season with Etude in Black. They're doing movie stuff along with it being an actress in a movie as well.
She is the third murderess, because we had Lee Grant way back with Ransom for a Dead Man. We had Susan Clark in Lady in Waiting, and then we've got now Ann Baxter.
There's actually the fourth one, Lillian Stanhope as well. Don't forget.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. I forgot about her. Yeah, she was, but that was that weird accidental death thing. And yeah, there's like even another guy from the studio who is in here quite a bit. And I was like, why is it not Kevin McCarthy? He should totally be in here.
Yeah, I didn't understand Kevin McCarthy's kind of inclusion, but only minimally. I do that Edith Head just randomly shows up for whatever reason. Like, she's in the office as Edith Head. Okay, didn't expect Edith Head to actually be there. Head and Baxter were good friends. Go to the office of your friend. Go sit in there. All right, fine. Yeah, why not?
Did you pick up on the music cues for this episode?
I thought they were really good.
They were reused. They recycled music in this.
That's what I thought. It sounded familiar.
Yeah. There was a moment where, I think it was towards the beginning, it might have been during that fake out murder scene that you're talking about, where I'm like, I've heard this score before. So apparently they picked up Dick Benedictus's cues and Oliver Nelson's cues. And then it was weird. They both registered their cues with the Performing Rights Societies. One's ASCAP and the other one's BMI. So this episode is screwy when it comes to the music rights. All right, Chris, let's go ahead and take a break, and we're going to play an interview with the Columbo File. That's the name of the person, not the name of the book. The name of the book that the Columbo File wrote is The Columbo Companion, 1968 to 78. It is a great collection of reviews from ColumboFile.com, redone, repackaged with some great illustrations. Highly recommended. And we'll be back with that right after these brief messages.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full up front. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowe's.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Installed by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
Thank you so much, Mr. Columbo File, for coming on the show and joining me to talk about your new book. But before we even talk about that, can you tell me a little bit about you and where did your love of Columbo come from?
I'm not a big fan of TV in general, but I fondly remember Columbo from my youth. I saw an episode at my granddad's house. I was about 10 years old. It was the Bye Bye Sky High IQ murder case. And I just really remember the ending of the episode where Theo Bickle and Peter Falker going head to head ahead of the big sort of gotcha moment, and there's thunder and lightning in the background. And it was really, oh, this is really quite interesting. And I gripped enough to then, as a young boy, so I was watching this in reruns, it would have been in the late 80s, to then recognize that when Columbo was on TV, it was a show I would be interested in watching. And I remember quite a few episodes fondly from my youth. So Deadly State of Mind with George Hamilton and Try and Catch Me with Ruth Gordon. And they must have been brand new at the time because I really, really remember enjoying Columbo Goes to the Guillotine. So I would have probably seen that pretty much as soon as it came out in Britain in the late 80s or start of the 90s. I would watch it if it was on TV and enjoyed it. But it was probably only in the early 2000s when my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we would see Columbo on, say, Sky TV over in England where we lived at the time. And I would say, oh, this is a really good show. We should watch this. And it was a show we would both got into and both really enjoyed. And then it came out on DVD and it was very easy to get hooked on the show then. And it would just become a little tradition. We'd sit and watch an episode and she'd fall asleep on the sofa, etc. And it's just a show that sort of good comfort viewing, but also very entertaining. And the more I watched it, the more I enjoyed it. And the more, I've never been what I would say obsessed with the show, but I like to debate elements of the show with people, but most people I knew in real life didn't really watch it. They might watch the odd episode with me and enjoy it, but not really understand it on any level. So that's why several years later, so it would have been 2015, I started the Columbo File blog so that I could then put as much of myself into telling people what I liked or didn't like about a particular episode of Columbo, and just found it became a really good spot for fellow fans around the world to come in and debate, join in the conversation about the merits or lack of merits about aspects of the show or particular episodes. And it grew from there. So Columbo's been a very fertile breeding ground for my own creativity.
Nice. What is your most controversial Columbo opinion?
Prescription Murder, the very first Columbo episode, filmed in 1967, aired in 1968. Like still a seminal, brilliant piece of television and an excellent introduction for the character. The show came back to the pilot, Ransom for a Dead Man, in 1971, and then season 1 proper later on in 1971. The character had undergone quite a degree of change, so it became a much more lovable, likable, softer character. And you can say, yeah, if you look at it, the canon of Columbo, yes, okay, he was a younger officer then. He might have had different techniques to close the case. But I think in Prescription Murder, the nucleus of the character that we would grow to love, but the aspects that make you love him, I think, like his human fallibilities and his genuine bumbling and forgetfulness and things like that, are absent in that character. He's got a harder edge, notably when he screams and shouts at the accomplice, young Joan Hudson. And whether or not you think that's a genuine display of emotion, it's just a very different approach for that Columbo character taking than we would see him approach in the series proper when that came about. So I've always thought it would have been really interesting to see them reshoot that episode. Maybe forget that Prescription Murder was the first Columbo episode, consider it just a standalone TV movie as it was considered at the time of release, and redo it again in the 70s when Peter Falk was really at home in the role. I think it would have been a really interesting viewing experience. And I personally wouldn't have minded that it had already been aired a few years before. Some fans that think Prescription Murder is the greatest TV show, greatest Columbo episode ever made, would really disagree with that. But I think it would have been really fascinating to see how that episode played out with the Peter Falk of the 1970s in the role, rather than the Peter Falk playing like a one-off character. Is that controversial?
I don't think that's too controversial. I really find myself agreeing with you that I would like to see that softer-edged Falk interpretation of that character. Because, yeah, we noted on the podcast about just how different that episode is, and just that he doesn't tend to get mad. I can remember him getting a little angry in A Stitch in Crime, but that's about it.
Yeah, and exercising fatality as well. He gets, when the wife of the victim takes an accidental overdose, and then Robert Conrad's Milo Janis, Jim Franchise's corrupt kingpin, is in the hospital as well with Columbo. Columbo just lays into him. And it's not for any reason that he wants to force him into a mistake or into a type of action, which I think he did with Stitching Crime. He does get angry with Leonard Nimoy's character, but it's because he wants him also to take a course of action that Columbo is then on top of, can use to incriminate him. I think this, when he flips out at Milo Janus in the hospital scene, it is just because he hates the guy, can't stand the guy, and he doesn't care who knows him, because they're in the waiting room with a sea of witnesses around them, and it's just one of those very few occasions when Columbo doesn't care who knows what he thinks about this guy, and it's really, by Columbo moments, I'd say it's a pretty thrilling one.
Tell me more about the blog, and how does the blog work its way into the book?
The blog is very much the template for the book. The episode reviews that I started writing would have been at the end of 2015, and I think I finally got through the first 45 episodes, which took place between 1968 and 1978. I can't even remember when, maybe 2020, maybe 2021, I finally got through writing all of those. It would have been 2020, actually. So we had a bit of a celebration on the blog, because while the individual episode reviews are not necessarily the most read posts I put up on the blog, they are the ones that the faithful readers, the regulars on the blog, really hang out for, because they want to be able to compare and contrast their own opinions, have their say on the matter as well. And they've just become such a good sounding board for fellow fans and a source of debate in the comments section of each blog. And a lot of times people have said to me, either via my social media channels or on the blog, you should just put these in a book. And I hadn't really thought about doing it until, I don't know, maybe I had 15 or 20 people say that. And then I thought to myself, well, I could just do that. I could compile all the episode reviews. I could update them, or I could streamline them to a certain extent, because, when I put a blog post up, because I give an episode précis as well as my own opinion on it, and they can run 5,000 words, which is, I'm a great believer in long form content, but 45 of those in a book is just too much. So it gave me a chance also to revisit them, do a bit of streamlining. Sometimes when I'd written an episode review, I hadn't actually realized it might have been a reader commenting on the blog post that made me actually think, I've actually misinterpreted that previously. So now I can revisit a point. Don't know if I can think of one off the top of my head. Maybe any old port in a storm. I think one of the regular commenter had said, which is quite true, that when did Adrian Cassini come up with the plan to actually get rid of the body of his brother? Because he kills his brother, and then he's got some friends that are there drinking wine with him, and all of a sudden he's hatched a master plan, which involves turning off the air conditioning or the air ventilator in this wine cellar, going off for a week, leaving his brother to die and suffocate, and then come back and dispose of the body. And you think, how in these minutes, in this company, these people, did he come up with this plan? So that became the sort of thing I would add into the review. I'd say, on further consideration, this is possibly a weakness in an episode that I hadn't considered when I'd written the blog post originally. That's what it came from. So I thoroughly updated 4 of my episode reviews for the book, and just thought it would be a nice compilation. I got a fun illustrator, Columbo fan I know, who goes by the name of Cos Perry on social media channels, and she was the youngest Columbo fan I knew in real life. I think early 20-something, Californian-based, the lover of video games, and they're very much an atypical Columbo fan. So I commissioned some illustrations to go with that book as well. And then my daughter got ill. She got cancer, and the whole book was on the back burner for the best part of a year or so. And then I was in contact with David Koenig, who I'm sure I think he's appeared on your podcast, just asking him questions about his book, which I was promoted on my blog as well, because he runs a publishing company as well. And he said he was very helpful in giving me advice on how to rekindle my idea to get a book up and running and published. And I'm happy that the book was published through his publishing company as well. And it all came together. So, the aim of my blog and the aim of my writing in general is not to take myself too seriously. And I think there was still room in the market for that type of book, which does go into quite a high level of analysis of every single episode, but it's not written in a very sort of studious or academic fashion, if you like. So it's a very accessible book in terms of reading. And I think while it is similar in structure to Mark Dawidziak's The Columbo File book, which is the book that gave me my social media handle name, and it's what I named the blog after, really as a homage to Mark's book, rather than me trying to steal his identity or anything like that. And I get on very well with Mark. I like to think we're mutual fans of each other's work and how we have taken to engaging with the Columbo fan base. But his book was a lot more about behind the scenes things and less analysis. And while I love his book, I think it's brilliant, still one of the greatest Columbo books ever written. When I started on the blog, part of the aim was to really go in deep into the analysis, and that's the aspects of the blog that I put into the book, is the analytical aspects. So people can, when they see an episode on TV, the aim is for them to pick up the book, have a look through it and think, yeah, okay, I actually didn't think of that. Maybe I now have a greater appreciation of this episode, or maybe that's a different perspective that I'd considered before. And people tell me that has worked for them when they bought the book. So that's makes me very pleased.
I'm so glad you brought up the illustrations, because those are so eye-catching and just so well done. Really love how they're sprinkled throughout the entire book. And then, of course, the cover is just amazing.
Yeah, the cover, and I wasn't sure how the cover was going to come up. That's David Koenig designed the cover as well on my behalf, because I had all the illustrations done, ready to hand over. I had no idea what the cover was going to look like. And when he sent it through, that just aced it straight away. And yeah, I was delighted. And these sort of illustrations, they're a bit of playful and fun, how I like to present my own writing as well. So it was a nice complimentary work, I think, from the illustrator. And I like to think if there is a sequel to the book, I'd be able to get the illustrator to work with me again.
So yeah, are you thinking of those later episodes?
Oh, certainly, yes. If the current book sells sufficiently well, and apparently it has done very well for a book of its type, I'm very near the end of my episode reviews for the new Columbo episodes, as I call them. I've only got 2 left to review now, and ordinarily I would have expected to have finished them by now. But in my life, the previous 4 years to this one, I had given up my corporate day job, and I moved with my family out to a remote desert community in outback Australia, literally nowhere near anything. So my time then was spent house husband, if you like, and also home tutoring my 2 children. But also I was able to commit a lot of time to the blog and later getting the book done as well. At the end of last year, our time was up in the desert. We did our 4 years out there, came back to the city, and I've had to find a job, get employment. So all of a sudden this year, I'm finding like the pressures of balancing a full-time job again after all these years and family life and trying to still get some Columbo stuff done. Sadly, at the moment, Columbo is the thing that's on the back burner. I will still get those episodes done, and I've still got a load of content ideas. I'm not done with Columbo. It's just I need to get back into it and find the time to really commit to it. And hopefully part of that would be a sequel to the book, the original book, and then, get the analysis of the 1989 to 2003 episodes out in printed format as well.
Must have been interesting to be in the outback during a global pandemic.
It was interesting, but interesting in the sense that we were so isolated from what was going on in the whole rest of the world that really a lot of the inconveniences and the dangers of the pandemic really completely passed us by. No ambulances, the streets. COVID did come to the community much later, but by then it was when it was weaker variants on the illness as well. And because of the nature of the population where we lived as well, the indigenous population, had COVID reached those communities, there's quite high levels of ill health. It could have had a very devastating impact there. So we largely managed to avoid it. None of the panic buying, none of anything like that as well. I think probably we're amongst some of the least, my family or the people that we lived and worked with out in the desert were some of the least affected people in certainly the Western society and probably in a lot of the world during the whole COVID pandemic. So I think very fortunate that we weren't, I suppose, negatively impacted or inconvenienced like a lot of the rest of the world was.
I love the book, and I love that your name is that homage to Dawidziak's work. And I think that your book, even though it's similar, covers those core episodes, gets in depth in those, but it really stands on its own. I don't think that there's any sort of real overlap other than you're talking about the same episodes, but your take on things is so different and so fresh that it's really nice that I can put those two things on my bookshelf right next to each other and they just live perfectly together.
Yeah, thank you. That's nice of you to say. And that's the way I see it, that my book and Mark's book and David's book, Shooting Columbo, they all are excellent complementary works to each other. Like David is so good about all of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, like some of the never before heard stories and nuggets like that. Mark got that first-hand contact with Peter and with William Link and all of the other stars of the show, and it's relatively fresh in their mind, and not comparing the body of my book to theirs, because there was a lot more research and endeavours behind the scenes work done on their behalf for their books. But I think there is still room in the market for mine, and according to what I hear about the sales figures, the buying public and Columbo fans feel the same way, which I promise you absolutely delights and humbles me. And just to think that my book is on the same shelves out there as Mark's and David's and is highly regarded alongside their work, which I think is superb, is touching for me to know that what I've done is held in a high regard.
I know you said you're not a big TV fan, but are you watching Poker Face these days?
I did. I made an exception for Poker Face because I've been aware of Ryan Johnson and Natasha Lyonne being fans of Columbo for some years via social media channels, and Natasha in particular has been a big advocate for my Columbo File Instagram account. So she shares my posts a lot of the time, and very rarely, but occasionally exchange messages on there. The same applies to Ryan as well. He's been very complimentary about what I do, and we do exchange the odd message on Twitter and on Instagram as well about what he's doing and what I'm doing. And I did let him know I was following the progress of Poker Face with great interest from the moment I heard of it being, what the concept of the show was. So straight away, my mind was there's going to be some Columbo takeouts for viewers on this, based on both Natasha and Ryan being such big fans of the show. So after I'd watched the first couple of episodes with my wife and daughter, I couldn't get my son to watch it, unfortunately. He's 14, absolutely not interested. But I wrote a review of it for the blog, just along the lines of what Poker Face, what's in it for Columbo fans, and just highlighting what a fan of 70s Columbo might gain from watching Poker Face, what sort of things they might find similar, what might be different. Ryan saw that, he read it, and he sent me a message saying, "Thank you. Yours is the only review I cared about." What a great guy. But yeah, Poker Face, really entertaining show. I don't know, the world seems to have fallen in love with it, rightly so, very entertaining. Natasha's brilliant. What I think is good is that there's enough callbacks to Columbo and other shows of the era that I'm less familiar with, that a fan of 70s, 80s TV show mysteries can really enjoy it and think and tick off a load of things on a list of things that they think, oh yeah, that takes me back to Quantum Leap, Littlest Hobo, Rockford Files, Columbo, and it's just really entertaining. But Natasha's character is so down to earth and likable to watch, and I think that's what she has in common with Peter Falk, is that she's just such an interesting actress, very interesting mind, which I think Peter Falk had as well, so that you can just happily sit back and watch them. And I think even in Poker Face, there's episodes that are going to be stronger, more interesting than others, but I think that central theme of having a really interesting central character, which is what, has always carried Columbo through, even some of its lesser episodes, you can just really enjoy spending time with that character. And I think Poker Face was really good for that. And I think the second season will be terrific viewing as well.
What's your favorite and least favorite Columbo episodes?
Favorite, as I think I probably touched on earlier. So it's the first episode I remember seeing, the Bye Bye Sky High IQ murder case. Silly title, I admit, but from season 6. And by then, Columbo, within its 70s lifespan was arguably past its peak. So I think the first 4 seasons, pretty much almost every episode or the vast majority of episodes were really superb. Starting season 5, the sort of like the level of stellar quality to average episodes, but the mix became a bit more even, if you like. So the hits to misses ratio wasn't quite as high as it had been. And the first 2 episodes of season 6, Fade into Murder with William Shatner, is a good episode, entertaining episode, but it's a bit of a crazy episode. It's Shatner doing what Shatner does and does very well, but in terms of the storylines, really, it's quite out there. It's like Peter Falk, Columbo is dealing with a character with split personality disorder, and he's humouring both of them, and it was a bit of a meta episode, I think, in terms of exploring Peter Falk's own relationship with the studio. So fringe jokes, yeah, but it didn't really hold a head together that cohesively. Old-fashioned Murder, the next episode, was a real shambles, and people should read David Koenig's book about what's going on behind the scenes in that episode. And then 6 months later, there was a lot of nonsense going on behind the scenes, the producers leaving, and the show was really in the doldrums at that point, and then came back with a new producer, I think Richard Allen Simmons, unless I'm mistaken, came back, someone that Peter Falk knew and trusted, came back in. His first episode was the Bye Bye Sky High IQ murder case. Peter Falk was really interested in the show. All of a sudden, again, the character of Columbo, he's got just the right amount of whimsy in his performance, but I think the episode has just got so many funny scenes in it. I like Columbo to be funny as well as a really sort of good mystery, and I think that episode does it well. It's got, 6, 7, 8 maybe really what I consider some of the best ever Columbo scenes, including the gotcha scene. There's a scene when young Jamie Lee Curtis confiscates Columbo's donut in a restaurant, and she's just so wonderfully surly, and his sort of take on how she treats him is just pitch perfect. And we see Columbo caught out without his raincoat on for the first time in Los Angeles, and there's a really good scene where he and the killer, they have a heart-to-heart, so they have a meeting of minds, if you like, where they both gain a greater understanding of each other's character and their history. And it's one of the few times Columbo actually tells us a little bit about himself, about how he got to where he is today, and he loves his work. There were more gifted people with him, so he always had to work harder. And I really like that scene because it's such a rarity that Columbo really gives anything away of his true self, his true personality, his true history. So that was a really good moment. So that, yeah, has perpetually been my favourite episode. Worst ever Columbo, I'd say worst 70s episode certainly is Last Salute to the Commodore, which I know probably the majority of fans would agree with that, because it's just such an out there episode. At the time of filming, it was intended, or they believed it was going to be the last Columbo episode. So Patrick McGoohan had really hit it off with Peter Falk in the 2 previous episodes he appeared in, and they thought, I think between the 2 of them, let's just make this an absolutely unforgettable send-off. But for me, it was just too weird. Like the Columbo characterization, he's stoned all the time, and he's really touchy-feely, or he's shouty, and he's overstepping the mark in every area. It's just too much for me. And also the gotcha itself is just terrible. It proves nothing. It's just like the guy incriminates himself by saying "tisn't" because a ticking watch is held up to his ear. And yeah, that might prove something, but it does not prove at all that he's killed the guy. And then all of a sudden, after this "tisn't" moment, he's outside backslapping with his fellow cops and then rowing off into the distance. And that is a nice scene, but the whole episode is bewildering rubbish. And I think if that was the first Columbo episode you ever watched, you'd never want to watch another one. But amazingly, that isn't the worst Columbo episode, because I really think Murder in Malibu, which is from Columbo's comeback run, I think in 1989, the second season of Columbo's comeback episode, and it's just an absolute shocker. It's like the daytime soap version of Columbo is how it comes across to me. And Andrew Stevens, Brenda Vaccaro are the big name sort of support stars. And I know they can act, but in this episode, it really is just like they have to do everything in one take. And there's just such ridiculous moments in it. But Andrew Stevens is a relatively good-looking guy, but it's like every woman within a 5-kilometer radius of him is immediately in love with him. It's ridiculous. And Brenda Vaccara's character knows or strongly suspects that he murdered her sister. And then he just says a few things and flutters his eyelids at her. And all of a sudden she's forgot all of that and they're embracing. And they're having a romantic liaison. And it's just, this is so ridiculous. And also it's so bad because Columbo's talking about women's underwear throughout and sort of fumbling with pants and stuff like this. And at the final scene, he's talking about how he knew that, that the guy, that Andrew Stevens' character was the murderer because Brenda Vaccara's character couldn't have done it because the underwear was put back on the corpse inside out and no woman could possibly do that. And he's saying panties this and panties that sort of 6 times in about 2 minutes. It's just, you just don't want to hear it. And also, we're supposed to believe Andrew Stevens' character is basically the greatest living Lothario. He knows how to put women's underwear back on the right way anyway. So the whole thing is just absolute load of total rubbish. Shudder to think that an episode as worse than Last Salute to the Commodore could exist, but Murder in Malibu just kicks it into touch.
I look forward to talking to you about the rest of these 89 to 2003 episodes when your next book comes out, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this first book, and you should be really proud of it.
Thank you very much. No, I'm delighted you've said so, and thanks to everyone who's bought it and said nice things about it on social media or on Amazon, and yeah, it's been very positive.
Mr. Columbophile, thank you so much for your time today. This was great.
My pleasure, and a very happy Easter to you, or if this will come out after Easter, happy whatever the next holiday is.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
All right, Chris, we are back and we were talking about Requiem for a Fallen Star.
I really like the setup of this episode. I like that it is, again, we have a fake out of, we think that it's not the person who's meant to die dies, and then it turns out there's twist after twist, and then the final twist is, oh, here's why they died. I actually really like this episode. I think maybe It is, thinking about it again, thinking back to the climax, it is a little weak, though, if you think about Columbo going into the finale and being like, I'm having to go on a hunch here. I don't want to say it's contrived because it's a mystery who done it or how catch him, but Columbo had to be right. And so he is right. It's not that it feels bad. It's just, I wish it didn't feel like such a blah moment where it's, and here's all this, and I hope that I'm right, and it would seem that I am. Now you have to admit that I'm right. And she does.
It reminds me a little bit of Deathlands Ahead, as far as having Robert Culp suddenly run to the car and look for that contact lens and all that.
I like this episode, so I'm willing to not, maybe the word overlook isn't the right word, but it is a tad of a contrivance. But it's a contrivance that all of these stories tend to share, which is these criminals act like idiots at the moment they need to act like idiots to be caught, because they're not going to get away. She has to go and, oh my God, the body's gone. And then there's Columbo standing there.
Literally the same ending, to turn on the lights. I'm surprised that there wasn't a whole bunch of cops there with him.
I actually like that it's just her and him, and we get this quieter moment where she, again, more or less gets to speak her piece as to why what happens. But yeah, it's just, again, I like this episode, but I'm never going to be a fan of, I'm expecting you to do the stupidest thing possible, and so you go and do it. I will always find that to be a little convenient, but again, it's a mystery whodunit. Somebody has to act stupid at some point, otherwise they're not going to get caught. Then it's real life, and then it's no fun when people go missing and their bodies are never found because nobody ever says anything. It's not a whodunit, it's a we'll never solve it. That's the thing about these stories that we find solace and comfort in, is that the stories have an ending. It wouldn't be as much fun if Columbo went, I guess you're getting away with this one. I can't figure out a way to get you to admit that you did it. And again, like, the narrative denotes she has to admit it, but nobody in this scenario would actually admit it. They'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right? Like, that is the correct response. When he goes, I don't really have any evidence to pin on you, you go, isn't that too bad?
But they're going to have to dig up that plot of land. And things are going to be pretty bad for Nora Chandler here.
Eventually. I do like that, ticking time bomb of the studio trying to buy the land back. I like that, because that does put a looming presence over all of this. But she held out. She'll be able to hold out forever, right?
The more I think about it, the more I think that Columbo is a genuine fan. And the more I think that George really was on the phone, because it was George that ends up calling him and saying, hey, check out the movie on Channel 2.
Which is, again, like plant and payoff, right? Because without him having her on the phone, maybe he doesn't. That is the moment in the episode where it's, holy shit, episode. Are we really doing this? And it's, it's one thing for him to watch it, but it's that they give this scene of him mugging to it. That is, and you know what I'm talking about. He's sitting on the couch. He's like, whoa, what? No. You can see, because Peter Falk is such a good actor, you can see him going through the emotions of, oh, wait, is this what she did? To, this is totally what she did. To, how can I figure out and prove if this is what she did? You can see all of that. And it's a scene, it's a masterclass in acting because he's such a good actor. But it is one of those things where you as an audience are just like, okay, what a fucking coincidence.
And they're helping us out too, because I think they give us the insert shots, or they show him looking at those photos again where he had remarked, oh, you're about the same size as your husband. Oh, he was just a small guy. Not his position, is his height.
They do that in Fletch, where it's, oh, you seem like you're the same height as my husband. Oh, okay, so maybe he's going to be swapping our bodies. But I like that. I do like that, but the episode does treat the audience maybe a little with little kid gloves, which again is perfectly fine. But I don't need to see, just like I don't need to see Frank Drebin mugging, I don't need to see Columbo mugging. It's just, I get it. I know that he knows he's fucking galaxy brain. He knows he's on a TV show and he's tapped into the galaxy brain of the show. Because again, I'm not saying that's the only way he can solve some of these, but sometimes it is.
I was really glad this was a nice, tight 70 minutes. There wasn't anything that I felt was really wasted in here. I thought that they gave us the reveals at the right time, so we're not just, okay, I figured this out before they have kind of thing. I feel like they were pretty much a step ahead of us most of the time, or at least a half a step.
I agree. I like the part at the end where Jerry Parks is dodging out of the way of the car, and I that it was going to cut to the next scene. They were going to be like, he's dead now. She hit him with the car. Because you can see at the end of that scene, him like jumping out of the way. It's like very obvious. I was like, oh no, that was intentional. Because I was like, oh my God, please don't tell me they're going to try to pass that off as he got hit by a car. It was like, that dude jumps out of the way. I think it's a really interesting choice to have that happen. So what was the point then of her trying to kill him? Because he possibly knew that she killed her husband?
I think it's a couple things. I think one, it would be nice if he died because she just wants him out of the way. But two, she's trying to somehow set up that there is a conspiracy going on, that he was the intended victim of that first murder, and whoever that is really out to get him. So they're trying again. Whatever kind of criminal cabal is trying to take him out will continue going after him.
Would she have gotten away with it if she hadn't tried to run him over? That's what I was wondering. Is it the tire then that he get? Because again, I went to get my car serviced and the tire has, been the tire's down stem was opened, and kids don't open it up. Kids would never open it all the way. They would only just, what the fuck kind of reasoning is that, Columbo? Don't you dare. The kids would never open it all the way. It's like, the air is let out of the tire. Like, that's the problem here. Stop talking about how the fucking valve is attached. No child, no human being would stack books that way. That's what that felt. That's what it felt like. What the fuck ever. I guess for me, in my mind, Columbo's line of reasoning is the tire, and then what?
There was the whole thing of the car that drove away. That was one of the studio cars, I believe.
That drove away. But it was her doing the same thing again, where she was dressed up like a guy doing it. I guess her MO is dress up like a man anytime she's going to commit any sort of crime.
Yeah, she's definitely a drag bandit. That's why we're trying to outlaw drag shows, because people just dress up like other sexes and start committing murders.
I do like how one of the things Columbo says to her at the end is, the fountain doesn't work.
I happened to notice the serial number when I was reaching down to pick that flower the other day. I'm like, okay, I know you were doing something, Columbo. I just wasn't sure what it was.
He's a real rapscallion in this episode. It feels like, oh yeah, I'm checking.
Could I get my wife a memento? She really likes mementos.
He's up to his trickery in this episode. Yeah, going and picking the flower, going into the back lot to go see where they keep all the props. Honestly, though, like, if you live on that back lot, why wouldn't you just go get anything else? Like, just anything. This is like wimpy ass fountain that, like, you or I could move on our own. Get anything else, lady. Come on. This fountain will look fine. Or why not put your husband's body out to sea when you went out to sea? Why bear? It's just so fucking weird that the conceit of this episode is she murdered her husband, and instead of going out on the boat and dumping his body, which she was already going to do to make them convinced that he had left, she just buried his body 10 feet from where she is. Okay.
Maybe she wanted him near her.
Sure. You know what? Fine. It's Columbo. I'm just going off of having spent a lot of time listening to and reading about real people who murder people for real. And this feels just, I really want to get caught. I want to get caught at some point. They'll figure me out eventually.
This kind of opens up a whole thing of backlot stuff, which we've already seen Columbo, because I think he lies in this episode where he's like, oh, this is the first time I've ever been on a movie set. And I was just like, no, that's not the case. Yeah, You've been on a movie set before, Columbo. I'm trying to remember which one it was. You've been here before. You've seen this stuff. You definitely saw some scoring stuff going on with... Was that a Toot and Black? That was a Toot and Black, yeah, because he was the other musician apart from Cassavetes and the piano player.
Maybe we'd like to remember, but I went and looked, and I don't know if he has run into any movie people yet.
But I don't know if he was talking with movie people, but I want to say that he was on a set before.
Was it just the music thing from A Toot and Black? Maybe that's what it was. Maybe you're remembering a future episode of the show.
It could be. It could very well be.
I like that they really use the movie set as much as they can. Like, genuinely, that is a genuine success of this episode, is utilizing the setting to its fullest. Again, that's something that the show you would think would excel at, but it doesn't necessarily always make the most of where it's set. But this one really does. I think it's one of the better episodes we've seen so far, frankly.
Yeah, which is funny since I didn't remember it as being anything. Just remembered the fountain. That was the only thing I remembered. So I'm glad that this was a surprise.
It is a weird episode because, again, we have a character who, we think for almost the entire episode, is not the one who was meant to be killed. We find that out in the closing moments of the episode. So it's in and of itself that makes it a strange episode. Because, I mean, similar to the last episode where it was like a mistake murder that was then further compounded by idiocy on the part of the two murderers, this is all being done because of something that we don't even know about. In and of itself, it's such a strange episode. But again, I think it's one that, in how weird it is and how new it feels, I think it works. I think it's a really good episode. Maybe not the best episode. I think it has enough. Anne Baxter, I think, is good. Maybe not the most memorable villain. I think she's fine. She doesn't get in the way of everything else. This is a very Columbo-heavy episode.
Yeah, which is nice because we've been kind of like, hey, where's the guy who the show is named after?
You're totally right. That has been kind of a criticism for the last couple episodes, is like, where is Columbo? He's solving this off screen. This is what this feels like. And that's not the case in this one. We get to see maybe even a little more than we needed, all of how he solves it, more or less. So yeah, this is a good one.
It's pretty interesting. The next episode of Stitch and Crime is only maybe 2 weeks later, January 21st to February 11th. There's not that much time between there. It's definitely not even a month. Maybe it's 3 weeks between them. And we just had a little bit of a hiatus. The Dagger of the Mind was November 26th. So he's pretty regular coming up here. We've got January, February, March, and March. So yeah, just 2 weeks between The Most Dangerous Match and Double Shock.
These were being shot over like a span of 4 months, maybe 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, I think they were mostly shot during the summer. Yeah.
Seems like a summer show. The thing that I am really resonating with the show is the setting. And I think that summertime in California is a really appealing setting for a show. And this kind of show, it being a cop show, I think, I don't know, it feels very, at times, at odds with where it's set because we have an expectation of what the show is going to be. But I like that Columbo can navigate this world that he's in of California and these Californian rich people in such a way where not only is it entertaining, but it is also, again, for the most part, taking advantage of 70s California. And even when he goes to the UK, I mean, that episode is perfectly fine. It makes the most of where it's set, but I really like that this is all set in sunny SoCal for the most part, and they have plenty of establishing shots of Southern California throughout the show, especially this episode.
Damn straight, yes. Definitely do. Well, Chris, like I said, on the next episode, we were talking about A Stitch in Crime, so we'll be back to discuss that. One of my favorites, I think, so I'm very curious to hear what you have to think about that. I'm very excited because we've got Leonard Nimoy as our special guest murderer here.
Leonard Nimoy and Night Gallery's own Jared Martin. It's very weird to see someone who we just saw in something else for, in my case, the first time and go, oh, that's weird seeing you in something else like a couple weeks later, having never seen you in anything before. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it primarily because it's Leonard Nimoy. Don't have to hold my feet to the fire very hard to watch anything with Leonard Nimoy in it.
Until then, Chris, where can people find you and what you do?
You can find me and everything I work on over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where I produce and host several shows, including the Culture Cast, Chronicles from the Crypt. I co-host Kolchak Tapes with you, though that show is over. We do Midnight Viewing. That's what that's called with Father Malone. Lots of stuff over at Weirding Way Media. That's where you can find everything I work on. What about you, Mike?
I don't work on anything. It's just this show. This is the only thing I do. So if you want to hear more of me, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to come back next month.
I wouldn't have typecast you as a podcaster, Mike.
That was a pretty good insult.
That was the greatest insult in this show. I'm going to typecast you as a detective. Fuck you too, pal.
I want to thank John Walker for giving us our opening theme and Colin Gallagher for giving us our closing theme. I want to thank you, Chris, for being my co-host, and I want to thank everybody within the sound of my voice for listening to this. If you like what we're doing, go on over to wherever you get this podcast and give us a rating and a review. Apparently, there are now this thing called Value for Value where you can donate money to podcasts through certain apps. And this sounds really weird. I'm sure there's some sort of crypto or something involved. So I don't know. It's a little bit beyond an old man like me.
An old fuddy-duddy, as they would say. The oldest of fuddy-duddies, the ones who make podcasts on the internet.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.